Alright, so welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be trying something I've wanted to start doing for quite a while, which is a weekend update, which basically means everything I work on over a set period of time that just isn't good enough to be in its own video, I'll talk about here, and I'll do one whenever I have enough stuff to talk about. So first off, just to start it off, this is something that I did quite a while ago, which this is one of my AHM switchers, which I bought at a train show a while ago. If you want to watch that video, I'll put a link to it just down below. There will probably be a lot of links down there this week, so yeah. And this one, I can't remember too much about it. I wanted to paint it to be a switcher for a local sugar factory, which I've painted it up. There's a lot that I want to touch up with a paint pen once I get paint pens. Like there's this window area here that I'd like to clean up, and some other little spots, but for the most part, it isn't all that bad. And then I would like to eventually get some decals printed for this thing, then I can install those. I'd also like to upgrade the motor, and put some windows in this cab eventually, and maybe even give it DCC to run at the club I go to. So it's not perfect, but I've been working on this. I haven't done anything at all with it. It's just been sitting, well, up on top of my parts organizer that you see in the background. And it's just waiting for me to order decals and get paint pens. So we'll get that out of the way, and on to the next thing, which is the Santa Fe Athearn Blue Box SW7. So this, again, I bought from a different train show more recently, which I'll put a link below to that. And pretty much, I bought this, and if you saw in the video, it didn't work. So I went and off camera took the thing apart because I've been doing a lot of restorations, especially with blue boxes, and I did one recently with the switcher that didn't do so well, so I just didn't want to flood it with very, very similar videos. And I found the issue is that there were some metal shavings that had been picked up by the magnet of the motor, and had seized the motor, so I tore the whole entire motor down, gave it a thorough clean out, and got it working pretty well, actually. Which, after this, and after I finish talking about the next several items, we will test out everything I'm about to show you that I've worked on. And it runs pretty well. I do need to wash off the shell. This got damaged slightly just because of some rubbing alcohol when I was cleaning it. Now, not that big of a deal. The wheels are all cleaned up, and it was quite a while, but it runs pretty well. I'm quite happy with that. The shell might not even stay because I have plans for a project with one of my SWs. My other one I haven't worked on yet, from that same show, still sitting in my project bin, which after this week is actually quite a bit emptier, which is a good thing. So, with the switcher out of the way, let's go on to something that isn't rolling stock, which is a building. This is an Al's General Store that I got for free quite a while ago in another video as a kit, which, if I remember, I'll put this one down below, but this video was, I want to say, nearly 2 years ago at this point. So, yeah. It's a kit I've needed to build for a while. I was actually going to make a video on it, but I filmed the whole thing of me building this. It wasn't all that interesting, and when I went to edit the video, it was 45 minutes long, so I decided that that seemed ridiculous, and I didn't really have the storage to do that at the time, so I scrapped the video and just finally got the kit built out of the way, got rid of the box and everything, so now I have an actual building to use when I eventually redo my layout, which I'm waiting on materials and other stuff for, just the free time and all that goes along with it. So, not much more to say about this. Gotten all the stickers on. I'd like to weather this building eventually. Nothing special, but just wanted to talk about it. So, on to the next thing, which is this roundhouse box cap. So, put pretty simply, there was quite a bit going on with this thing. I got it in the same video as the blue box switcher that I showed you just before the building, so don't need another additional link for that. You can watch it there. And I got it, and it didn't work. The motor just spun. So what I had to do was reconnect this gearing right here. And when I did that, the model just ran really loudly and really slowly, which I gave it some oil, ran a little bit better. And I found out after doing some research that these were actually geared really similar to the Shays, so they aren't really fast at all, and are just quite a bit loud. Eventually, I might swap it out with a high-speed motor to just counteract the slow gearing, just so I can use it as a normal engine, but apparently these are also quite desirable, even though this one's missing the pads in one of the covers, since it's supposedly a track cleaning engine. So I don't know, I might keep it, I might sell it, I'm not entirely sure. So that's this. I'll show you how it runs in a bit. This truck, again, I had to convert to a dummy. I think I mentioned that in the actual video when I talk about these. But yeah, not much more to say about it. It is how it is. It works okay. It's just not what I was hoping it would be. And next up, we don't have an engine. We have 3 things of rolling stock, which I won't spend too much time on, which are, first off, this old Varney Pacemaker New York Central boxcar, which, again, it's in the same video as the last 2 engines I just showed you. This is an old Varney car, which I did some research into it, and it is from, I believe, sometime between 1949 and 1955, so it's quite old. I went in and did quite a bit to this. I added proper weight. I changed the trucks out for more modern trucks and put some metal wheels on it. And I also managed to get these trucks off by taking the whole car apart, which oddly, it's just held in by these grav irons on the ends. And I managed to swap out the fake couplers for actual Cadies, so this is an up-to-standards car now, which that's more so along the lines of the work I do. Sometimes it'll be engines and stuff like that, but usually off camera, it's actually got to do with rolling stock. I can't remember if I've done anything more than 3 cars that I haven't talked about, so I'm just talking about 3 in this video. I do a lot with rolling stock. So that's this one out of the way. On to the next one, which is quite similar, being another old Varney piece of rolling stock, which is just this Fairmont Creamery reefer, which I haven't done as much as I would like to with this. I'd like to get the whole thing apart and add some weight to this, but I can't really, so I'm going to live with it being a lightweight car. I don't remember if I did this before or after the video, which, again, came from the same video as the Pacemaker boxcar, the switcher, and the box cab. And eventually, I would like to swap out these trucks for something else. I don't think these are original Varney trucks. I'm not a big fan of these sprung trucks, but I might keep them for the weight. I want to switch out these plastic wheels for metal ones eventually, so I can run it at the club I go to. Not much more to say about this car. I don't think I mentioned the fact of how old it is yet. I did research again, and which is pretty easy for Varney models, and this particular boxcar was likely made in 1939. So it's probably the oldest model I have in my entire collection. So, with this out of the way, we'll go on to something a little bit more modern, but still not all that new, which is this AHM Pennsylvania Railroad caboose, which I've actually been working on for a friend. It is a weathered caboose, which I did not do. What I've done to this caboose, and he asked me to do, was to change out the trucks, because he didn't like the fact that these were clip-in trucks. So I did what I like to do with these AHM models and use some styrene tubing and screws to get normal screw-in trucks on here. I also fixed up these coupler heights, so now the coupler heights are correct to run with whatever. I gave the shell a good wash off and it looks much better. And the other thing, which he doesn't know about yet, but by the time of the video he will, and he might even be watching this, I don't know yet. I've actually added some windows into the caboose, just because I felt like it, and it makes the model look so much better. I have a whole bunch of clear styrene sheets that I bought ages ago. Haven't used through them. They're great for windows and stuff, so I just put windows in anything that needs it. But the main reason I actually fixed this thing up for him was putting in weight, which I have a whole video on that if you want to see how I do it. I have a link below. In the future, I might also do a video about how I convert AHM cars to screw-in trucks and whatnot, and maybe also about how I do windows, but those don't exist yet, and this is just a little project I was doing just for a friend. So now, on to the last thing, and most sentimental thing, which is this Tyco 060. This was actually my 3rd engine, I believe. It was either 3rd or 4th, but it's the 3rd oldest that I have. I know that for a fact. And basically, I got this engine for free ages ago, and somehow between me first being in the hobby and being more careless, and when I got back in, I lost the boiler cap and the actual correct cab for this thing. So I didn't do anything for the boiler cap. It might have been a penny or something at one point if you go back and watch some of those not so great old videos. The cab and tender were terrible, so this isn't too much to do with what I've done and why this is in this video, but I got it a new tender ages ago and a new cab that I need to repaint because I just used like cheap acrylic paint and I'd like to actually go with proper paint and get it painted to match. But that's not why I'm talking about this thing. It's been sitting in my project bin for about a year now. And also, a little less than a year ago, I got another free lot of stuff. I can't remember which one it was, but it had a Tyco engine in it that didn't have any wheels or anything, that I have since parted out and put the shell of onto another spare chassis I had laying around that was same engine type, and it fit perfectly. But it wasn't a Tyco chassis. It was an Atlas one, so I had these spare parts. So what I did is that I swapped out the motor block for the good one from the other thing, mashed up the gears. I was missing some screws, so I just used some spare ones I had laying around. The coupler box on this thing was not really existing, so I put on one of these. I'm eventually going to put on a plastic styrene plate up top here, so I can screw it into place and repaint this whole bottom section. And the thing runs now, so I'm quite happy with that. I wanted this thing to get back running for quite some time, and I'm quite happy that it runs now. It took a lot of work, and it might actually run better than when I originally had it. So now, with me just done talking about these things, I'll show you the 3 engines that I've been working on mechanically for this update video. So this is the SW7 that I talked about first, so I'll give it some power here. This is at about 60% power. It's a little bit slow, but for a switcher, perfectly fine. It runs quite a bit quieter than I was expecting. It tends to run a little bit louder when it's cold. I haven't actually run this thing today, so it might actually just be slightly louder than I'm expecting it to be. But yeah, this one runs pretty well. So I'll get this out of the way, and we'll move on to the box cab, which, again, I'll just show you how it runs briefly. It's derailed. This is also about 60% power. Then this is in the other direction. So I've been told this is perfectly normal for how they tend to run. So it's not anything off with the model, it's just I'm personally not a fan of the performance, and I wasn't expecting this. So with that out of the way, we'll go on to the last one, which is, most obviously, the Tyco 060. So I'll give it some power here. It needs to warm up a little bit, but like, give it a little more power. It really does not run all that bad. It's actually a lot quieter than when I originally had the thing. Might have something to do with the new motor block. And it actually sounds different than all the other Tyco 060s I've worked on for myself, friends. I have 2 of them myself, and I think I've worked on 1 or 2 for a friend just over the past, I don't even know how long. I've worked on at least 4 of these. So yeah, thanks for watching this update video, which is probably longer than I'm expecting it to be. And go check out some of the other videos where I originally get or work on or do some other stuff relating to these models.